They used to build ships in this harbor, the little schooners down here. It's Yarmouth, Maine. It's just north of Portland.
And that's where you're from, around that area, aren't you?
I'm from Gloucester, where they built more ships, and they all the fishing fleet came out of there.
Yeah.
So my grandparents used to do a lot of. Are we having the interview now?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. It's just
That's
casual,
okay.
and I edit it together and stuff. So don't worry about it.
It's good to have a little bit of a pre interview anyway.
Well, the whole thing is
My,
kind of like
my
that.
grandparents, my grandparents did a lot of like paintings of the ocean and ships, and
Hmm.
you know, not ships so much as like fishing boats. They weren't that old. No, there was not many sailing ships around then.
So I guess growing up in that environment is why you're so into like ships and
Yeah,
that kind of imagery of sort of
yeah.
Melville.
That's why. Yeah. I love Hermo. I never read him until I was like 40, and I said, "Shit, I'm drawing. I was drawing Mackies, and I was like, what the fuck? I've never read Moby Dick. What's wrong with me? Because in high school you can't get through that shit. You don't get the Milton references or the Bible or any of that shit. Talking about like the golden helmeted sons, the knights, the what are they like haughty dames and bedecked in jewels, the skies floating by, waiting for their heroes, the golden helmeted sons.
Hmm.
And you don't know what the fuck he's talking about until so I just forced myself to read it. And at first it was fucking easy. I was like, oh my God, this is as funny as Mark Twain. And then I got into the hard parts. You're like, okay, just keep slogging through, you know,
Yeah.
the cytology of the whale, all about how the whales function, their bodies function, everything.
Well, didn't you do the cover for Moby Dick for like a Penguin edition?
I did. There's been 3 or 4 times in my life when the phone rang and I'm like, what? Really? I'm reading Moby Dick. I just finished reading it. I was telling everybody how much I loved. Maybe they saw it online or something. How much I loved it. How funny it was. How I didn't realize it was comedy. It's not comedy, but guy's got a sense of humor. And then I get a call like, you want to do the cover of Moby Dick? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who is this? It's Penguin. So okay.
And do you remember what they paid you to do that Moby Dick
Yeah.
story or the Moby Dick cover?
I think everybody got 2,500 maybe, or maybe it was 1,200. I forget, but that was the days when you get paid.
Aren't you glad to be out of Los Angeles in a way?
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it doesn't seem like that was really your scene, that your
No.
place to be.
No. Well, I wanted to have kids, so
Yeah.
went out there and raised 2 kids. And, they went off to college, and here I am.
I mean, even when I look at the photos I've seen of your studio there in the carport, it
Yeah.
sort of looks like you're trying to recreate this like little New England like diorama or something, the entire thing, It's like
Yeah.
a
Well, it was in the middle of Bungalow Heaven, which is a lot of craftsman houses, and our house is not a craftsman, but it was built in 1926.
hmm.
So the barn was built for a Model T, right? So it was a small little garage. A barn. It was a garage, but I just put like I painted it all brown and green inside, and I put like Currier and Ives ship etchings all over wherever I could find a cheap frame somewhere. And I just jammed it with stuff like that, New England stuff.
Hmm.
So when people come into my house and they're like, "Fuck, you're all settled down, aren't you?" Yes, yeah. Come in the garage. I'm like, oh, this is where you live.
And
Had all
it
my
was
taxi and shit in there.
it's sort of open to the elements. Like I guess, well, maybe at the dry climate you wouldn't get like a lot of roaches running around there or anything, but you would get moths, I'm
No,
sure. And
they would fly in, yeah, because at night, I'd have to draw at night because it's hot in the day, especially in a barn, in a garage, a wooden garage with no insulation. But I love to work at night anyways. But at night, sometimes like those big, what are they called? Pyramid moths or something? I forget what they're called.
oh
They
man.
look like they're like that big. They're like a
Uh-huh.
sphinx moth. It's called. It's huge. It's like a bird. Would come crashing and hit me in the head like shit, like a bat. I had lizards in the garage in L.A., but it was Pasadena.
Hmm.
But they'd hide under the desks and stuff, so that was fine. But I like lizards. A skunk walked in one time, just like looking around. I was like, okay. He got like right close to my toe. I was like, all right. The possum would walk in now and then. It was
Oh
nice,
yeah.
but as far as like, I didn't have a problem with a lot of flying bugs, so it was okay. But like around here, I couldn't do it. I mean, you know how many screens you put up, mosquitoes are getting in.
Did you spend a lot of time at your grandmom's house? It's like old Victorian house that I was reading about, like
Yeah,
and that really seems to have like seeped into your art, your aesthetic or something. It's very
yeah.
like
It
Victorian.
is seeping. It was forced in.
Mhm.
Like I was drawing Mackey's, and it's all about, this dark, like gloomy, violent side, drunkenness and decapitation, and and then I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. I remember being a kid, I was into that shit. So I just remembered my grandmother's house, this beautiful old Victorian house we would crawl around in. And my cousin Anne Louise, who I was talking to last night, she was like 5 or 10 years older than us, and she would take us around to the house. She lived there and with her mom, and she'd take us around and like show us the little back stairways and the little stained glass window in the corner. And she would like, kick the door and say, "You hear that? That's the little man that lives there." So that was just so magical, that place, that I decided to do the book about it. The house of the Sock Monkey always takes place in a different Victorian house.
Huh. Is that house still standing?
It is. I haven't been inside it in a long time, and the houses I do are more elaborate than that one. But it was a nice big old house, probably turn of the century, I guess. But I just love the big stairways and the high ceilings, big
Mm.
huge windows, and just you could feel like the ghosts of other people that have lived in it. This one, forget about it. This was built in 1750. There's 1,000 ghosts in here.
Yeah. I'm
I
sure.
don't know how many people have died or were born in this house, but there was a lot of them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So, with the house that you were growing up in wasn't in old Victorian, though, right? I mean, it
No,
was.
my dad went to Massachusetts College of Art, same college I went to. So he built this really modern house, but he designed it, and it was like, all glass wall in the back, all just like
Oh
big
yeah.
windows in the back looking into the woods, and
Mhm.
ceilings, like wooden ceilings and everything. But it was low. And I loved that kind of shit when I was a kid. And then I loved going to my grandmother's house. It's really magical because that, the clash between the modern house and the clash of that was just magic. Those old lamps and stuff. Now I just love that. I fill my house with those old lamps.
Yeah, and it was. I remember hearing like a interview with you where you were talking about your parents were swingers. So
Yeah,
I
yeah, they were
remember
swingers.
that.
I can talk about it because my mom will never watch this video. So it's, yeah.
This is glass,
They
a
was
glass
yeah,
house,
they had
swingers inside.
right. At the end of their parties, we'd go up in the middle of the night. No, in the morning, we'd sneak up there to to get the crackers and wheat thins and cheese dips and stuff. And then, one time there was a naked lady laying on this couch. There'd be like clothes thrown around the living room, martini glasses everywhere. And they thought we didn't know about it. We finally figured out what was going on because my father had a bedroom and a bed in the studio downstairs, and then there's the
Mhm.
bedroom upstairs. So they'd come in and say, "Okay, kids," in the morning. They'd be like, "All right, go outside or go in this room and clean this room." And then they close the door, then you could hear them coming around, switching around.
Oh man.
Then my father built his house. He designed it with a floor plan. We're looking at the blueprints. Like, wait a minute. Oh, I get it. You see the blueprint. It was like the house is like this, and then the wall right down the middle of it with 3 doors in it. And back there was a bedroom and a studio with a big bed in it, of course. And you can see that, okay, he designed a house so that they could switch around easily in the mornings. I gotta go over to that's house. I don't know who lives there now. I gotta go tell them what
You
it's
tell
about.
what that's about.
Yeah, you see this living room? Yeah. I remember I went to college. My first year of college was 74
Mhm.
or 5. And then I took a year off and hitchhiked across the country because I wanted to go hang out with hippies. So I had long hair. I wanted to go, I hitchhiked to Haight Ashbury.
Wow.
And it was nothing but drunks and junkies everywhere. I was like, what happened? It's all over.
Yeah, it was over by then.
Yeah, so shit. Then I didn't know what to do. And I cut my hair, kind of didn't know really what to do. And all of a sudden then came the new wave. And all the cool people were all dressed up and having fun again. I'm like, oh good, we can have fun again.
You were around at just a right time as far as like being like a cartoonist and an illustrator because you people like you, like in Linda Berry and stuff, like you were making a lot of money doing your strip for alternative weeklies, right? And you were getting a lot of illustration work at the time when that was a thing.
Yeah. Making a lot of money, no, but getting a lot of exposure, yeah.
You didn't
Yes.
make a lot of money from Maki's?
Good God, no. That strip I made at the most when it was in maybe almost 20, maybe 18 or 19 papers, I was getting about $300 a week.
What?
It's only like, okay, the LA Weekly gave me $100 a week. New York Press gave me like 35.
Oh.
And then like I finally went up to the New York to no, not New York, to the Village Voice when the New York Press folded. They were paying 100, but that was the most 100, maybe 150 at the LA Weekly. I forget. But everything else is $20.
Oh, okay.
5, 30, maybe 10 sometimes. In fact, in Vancouver, they sent me a note that said, "Sorry, we can't run your strip anymore. We can't afford strips." I said, "All right, I'll tell you what. I'll give you my strip for $1." They're like, "Okay, as long as you don't cancel it." I said, "Sure." So then Kaz says to me, "What the fuck's going on? You're the only one in the Vancouver paper anymore. I heard they're not paying." I said, "No." I told him I'd give it to him for $1. I tell you, he was fucking furious. He was so pissed. He started calling me Tony Penny. He started writing songs. Tony Penny. Because he goes, "You're undermining all of us, you fuck." I didn't care. I just wanted to get my strip out.
Yeah.
But you're right. That's where my actual career started, was from illustrations, people seeing the strips.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess,
Is that what Barry told you?
well, no, I just feel like Linda Berry was in the most papers, right? I mean, I feel like her strip was really hot at the time in the
Yeah, why, right?
80s and 90s and stuff. Like,
You know why, right?
why?
Matt Groening loved her. Matt Groening had a deal. He said, "If you run my strip, you got to run Linda Barry too."
Okay.
So if you look at all the papers with Matt Groening, usually there's Linda Barry.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think it was brilliant because there was no female cartoonist around at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And her strip was
Really
great.
great way to get some notice, get some women, and I love her work.
Every year, you get like a new email from another publisher saying, or another paper saying like, we're going under. You're just watching shrink and shrink. And then you're like, well, I still have illustration. And then AI comes around, and he's fucking.
If you're an illustrator that people are looking for because you have a style that they like, AI is not going to do anything. I mean, I don't think it'll ever take over realist. I mean, not when I say real, it's bullshit, but it's a problem for new illustrators.
Yeah, I'm not worried
Hey,
about it with comics.
$1,000, I'll
Yeah.
take it.
So when you're in LA, does it just seem like everybody is there for a show? Like it seems like you had multiple things like in the works as far as like movies and shows and stuff.
Yeah. It's
That's just
all
culture.
it's all Hollywood. It's all like TV and Hollywood. I mean, that's how I finally got the Drinky Crow show going, was because I ran into all these comedy guys from Mr. Show, from all these various comedy shows that people that I was hanging out with. Dino Stamatopoulos was writing for Mr. Show, and when Adult Swim came to me, they wanted to do they wanted to do a TV show. So I was like, I know comedy writers that help me write it. So I called Dino and I called a bunch of other people, and I got then I walked in with like Tom Kenny. I know Tom Kenny. He does the voice of SpongeBob. He really wanted to do Drinky Crow because he's like, finally I can do some adult stuff. He came and auditioned, and the guys in Atlanta were like, "No, he's too Hollywood. We can't use him." Like, what the fuck are you talking about? He did a great voice. Then I got Billy West, who did an amazing voice. He takes two character actors from the 40s or 50s, combines them, and that's how he comes up with his voices. That's a secret. Don't tell anybody. And he does a beautiful voice for Drinky Crow. And they said, no, he does the Squidward, and he's too famous. Adult Swim really wanted not to be really amateur. They didn't want any famous people. So I was kind of, Dino did a great voice on Dino did the voice of Drinky Crow. He was famous enough, but nobody knew his name, so I was all right. Plus, they loved him. He was doing more oral, so it was all in house for them. SNL took. They made 6 cartoons about the Drinky Crow. They called it Mackey's. It was a TV. It was an animated show, and it was like 1 minute long, but they only ran 2 of them, like at 1 o'clock in the morning. But I had a good lawyer at the time who made sure that after 5 years, all rights lapsed. But with Cartoon Network,
Yeah.
they're as bad as like Disney about that.
Well, I loved that. I mean, I was a kid. I was watching SNL when that premiered, so I remember where I was. I was sitting on a mattress on the floor in Arizona, watching
Really?
Saturday Night Live on TV when that premiered, with the squirrel and the nuts, and he shoots himself dead. I saw it as a kid. I didn't know anything about Maki's the comic. I was too young.
Yeah.
I remember that was stuck in my mind. So when I got older and got into alternative comics, I was like, Oh my God, that's the that's from Saturday
Yeah,
Night Live.
yeah.
I know that, you know?
SNL, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's pretty interesting. Like I remember that when that premiered. So
I
did
remember
that
I thought my career was made. Oh my God, I'm on SNL. I was starting to look at houses up the Hudson River. Oh, buy a nice little beat up Victorian and fix it. Oh yeah, yeah.
you didn't have a computer in your garage studio in LA, did you?
Yes, I did.
You
I
did.
had an old antique radio, you know, with the on the big old legs with ball and claw feet, and you
Uh-huh.
open the doors and all everything would be in there. I bet there everyone just of course. I mean, you know, you had to learn right away. I learned it from New York Press, where Michael Gentile, the art director there, was like, you better learn how to use a fucking computer. You better. I said, do I get a Mac or a PC? Get a Mac, or I won't be able to use your work. I said, okay. Those days there was no crossover, so that's when I had to get it and figure out how to use it.
Hmm.
And I did all my, not just the color, but black and white. I had to scan it in there and send it up, which is better than what I was doing before, which is I draw the comic strip that I had to go from Brooklyn into Manhattan, and it would be like, you know, 4 o'clock in the morning or 5 in the morning because I'd work at night, and the deadline was 9.
Hmm.
Go to the all night Kinkos, get like photo sets made. I'm not photo sets, but just copies. You know, you go over to the good printer, have prints made, then you'd have to go over to the New York press office and slide it under the door. That was the only way to get it there.
Yeah.
Or I'd wait till they open and just hand them the original and let them scan it.
So you were were you mailing photocopies of your strip to all the papers that were running it at the time?
Yes,
Oh my God.
yeah. I had to make like after a while. I mean, it wasn't that long. You know, it was the strip started in '94, so by like '98 or something, everything was getting emailed.
So you were how old were you when you became a father? Were you 40 or something?
40 years old, 40 or 41, something like that. 2001. I have held my little baby in my arms, my adorable, darling child, 1 month old. And my sister-in-law called and said, "Turn on the TV." I'm like, what? Oh, fuck. Watching the towers go down. Like, yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, shit. Like everybody else, I was like, eBay, click, gas mask, click, all sold. There was no gas mask. There was a million of them. They're all sold. And I like infant gas mask shit.
But did becoming a father change your comics at all? Did you like
Oh, yeah. I couldn't have Drinky Crow blowing his brains out anymore after that.
oh sure.
You know, all the hope and joy of watching these little girls grow up.
Hmm.
I'm like, not just not feeling it anymore.
Yeah. Did it
But
give
you
you
know,
like a
it got funnier. The strip was, I mean, it's always been a funny strip. But I when I started it out, it was hilarious, and I was like, oh shit. Now every strip I have, I can't do a mediocre one when I'm in a bad mood. I always have to be. There's a bar that I had set, and it had to be 2 funny jokes. The bottom one too.
oh
The
yeah.
bottom was where I put the didn't get a ha 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 joke, the good joke.
Mhm.
The top one I could get a little arty with it.
Yeah. So how would you do that back then? Would you have like a legal pad next to your bed and just always be thinking about
I go
funny
for long
things?
walks. I go for long walks. I bang my head in the wall. I like go out to bars and hang out with friends and hope that somebody says something funny. I steal jokes left and right. Everybody used to tell everybody, watch out. I'm gonna steal anything funny you say. So if you don't like it, don't get near me. Don't say anything funny. Kaz got really pissed off one time because he found out that I was stealing jokes from Red Skelton.
Oh no, man. Why would you do that?
Because I had to steal jokes from somebody nobody nowadays would bust me. So I go back and like listen to old time radio, and these jokes are just like, you know, the old time radio comedy
Oh yeah.
comedy
Mhm.
shows were just like a joke, a joke, a joke. That was it. It wasn't like set up and
Yeah.
being fun.
Did you ever like do a comic in your I'm sorry, I'm like really fascinated by the whole like garage studio thing in LA, but you would just be
Okay.
drinking all night and drawing. Would you ever like wake up in the morning and be like, what the fuck did I draw? And have to go back and look and be surprised by it?
Yes. About maybe maybe 25% or a third of the drawings. I'd wake up in the morning like, oh shit, and I have to redraw the last panel,
Oh yeah.
put it in Photoshop in there. Especially towards, you know, towards the end of my marriage when I was just drinking like 12 to 15 beers at night, getting the fuck out of that house into the garage and just drawing all night. And I had like, you know, I had Ambien, I had Vicodin because my back was all fucked up.
Hmm.
So I was popping all these like eating pills and drinking shitloads of beer. finally I stopped about like 3 years ago when I realized, oh shit, I'm 65. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So I stopped all that shit. And then I realized I already learned how to be drunk. If I want to be drunk, I can just go like this. It's the same feeling. You just relax, calm down. You know what I mean? The booze taught me how to like relax without even using the booze anymore.
You,
So it was easy for me to quit. I don't know
I
why.
saw that there's a video of you from that series Hooked on Comics where you show like you're showing a strip and then the last panel is all fucked up and you're like, yeah, so I have to fix this part here because it's basically like you'd be drawing and then you're getting drunker as you go
Yeah.
along on the panel and it's like I'm like, does he even remember drawing this stuff? Like it just
No.
be so
No,
out
a
of
lot of people don't remember drawing it. The thing is, I always start with the story. The first thing I come up with is the joke, right? And then I write the story, so I know what's going to be. Then the drawing itself, I don't remember drawing the last panel sometimes. But that was ambient. Ambient for me lasted maybe a year or 2 years, where I would take it like at midnight and I'd stay up till 3 or 4. And the ambient gets really high if you don't go to sleep. And the beer would keep me awake. I just keep pounding beers, stay awake. And it's a fucking beautiful feeling.
wow.
I mean, but it was like being a junkie, you know. It's like just I feel good. And then the drawings were like, the arm is like that long suddenly, and it's like a tongue coming out, like, and it was like an AI drawing. Suddenly, this 17 fingers, and you're like, what did I just? What was I thinking? I turned into an AI.
But that's the beautiful thing about your work is that you have like such a high level of craft, but you don't use rulers, like nothing, like you could tell that maybe you ruled it out with a pencil, but then that was it. You didn't use the ruler anymore. Then it was just straight to ink. So
Yeah,
nothing is, like the panels aren't straight. It has this kind of like warm hand drawn quality, but also sort of like the A.B. Frost kind of uh old cartoon style within that, through that
right.
filter or something.
Right.
And that's that.
There's one time when I rule. It's just like when I'm drawing the box.
Mhm.
First, I measure it with a ruler, both sides. But then I don't use even the ruler for the pencil. I know it'll show up if I do it, or you can see that I'm following the line. I just take my finger and put it on the edge of the paper and then drag the pencil across it like that.
Oh,
All of it, I still do that, and so it's always a little bit off because your hand kind of goes near a little bit, just a little. And then when I'm drawing the line, if it's too straight, I'll just start wiggling in the middle like that. I just jerk my fingers a little bit and fake it.
uh-huh.
Get a little bit of Charles Schultz. Did
Yeah.
you see? Did you read the collection that Gary Groth finally managed to get put together? The Peanuts collection.
Not all of them, but
Oh
yes.
God, it's like an encyclopedia. He got
Yeah.
every step.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. My kids used to come from my neighborhood and come over and borrow it. So they didn't know what Peanuts was because they didn't. There's no newspapers.
Mm-hmm.
When my kids' friends would come over, they were like borrowing my books all the time. They loved Peanuts. I mean, if they could figure out a way, if Gary could figure out a way to get that to kids, he'd have a whole new market.
Was Fantagraphics just sending you those for free? Or would you have to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just arrived in the mail. I didn't even ask for them. I was really happy to get those. Gary told me the whole process of how he had getting those things. Like, I mean, that's a fucking great idea though. If you could, because those kids love that shit, and the only place they could find it was on my shelf.
Yeah.
They were all lined up, and they pick one and just take it home and read it and bring it back.
Oh, that's awesome. Wow.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
I mean, it's written for kids. I mean, I remember being a kid, like 8 or 10 years old, and you think it's gonna fly over your head. It doesn't. It's talking about depression. It's talking about real fucking anxiety. It's talking about all the little joys of life. Snoopy's kind of like everything's gonna be okay. Charlie Brown's like everything's not gonna be okay. Lucy's coming along going, you guys are all fucking assholes. What about this? And Linus is philosophical. Right? It's just beautiful.
It is.
And for a little kid, you could form your whole philosophy around that book.
Yeah. My son loves it. I'll read him. He likes the Beagle Scouts when Snoopy is a scout leader for a little bit, and he's got all the wood stocks and the little Beagle Scouts, and they go up camping and stuff. Yeah, my son loves all that, and he loves the animated specials too, like the movies.
Well,
Snoopy Come Home and
the Thanksgiving one is pretty fucking retarded, but my kids liked it. Like, no, don't lie. I wouldn't let them watch like Winnie the Pooh. Forget it. No fucking. I got a whole fucking thing to say about that goddamn thing.
Huh.
Okay, Winnie the Pooh. I said to my sister Kim, she's younger than me. maybe, but only like 4 years younger than me or so. I said, Kim, I was talking about the new Winnie the Pooh. Like, they fucking do. They're doing to this. Like, I mean, look at, because there was some new Winnie the Pooh thing that came out, and I'm like, I don't let my kids watch this shit because of the real Winnie the Pooh, the original Winnie the Pooh. She goes, I know, right? But it's too bad they didn't have Piglet in the original. I said, what the fuck? Oh, right. She thinks the first animation was the original.
Oh,
That's
really?
how far back as her memory goes. But the originals were my grandmother reading the books to me, those black and white, beautiful drawings by Ernest Shepard, like one of my favorite illustrators. And the stories are so fucking beautiful. They're really touching. The way they're written, the way they play out, the way the drawings carry you along with it. It's such a great thing. And when Disney made that movie, A.M. Milne was already dead, obviously, but not obviously, it just hadn't died that long before.
Mm-hmm.
But Ernest Shepard was still alive, the old 90-year-old illustrator. And he went and he saw it, and he said it was a travesty because of the fact they took out Piglet, the beautiful little simple drawing of Piglet.
Mm-hmm.
And they replaced it with a fucking gopher, like a scrubbing bubble gopher. I hate that. I wrote a comic strip about it too, where like Mickey Mouse is looking out the window with a pair of binoculars. He's like, Goofy, you bastard, I told you it wouldn't work. And there's like Winnie the Pooh walking out, Disney Pooh walking out into the woods, walking into the 100-acre wood. The Piglet's like sweeping up. The real Piglet is sweeping up in front of his tree house. And he's looking at him, and then he's like, what the fuck? And then he calls Winnie the Pooh the real one, the Ernest Shepard one.
Mm-hmm.
And they see the Disney Pooh. He's like, hey guys, can I have some honey? They beat the shit out of him. Piglet takes a gun and shoots him in the head. And then then Mickey's like, God damn it, Goofy, I told you it wasn't gonna work. Fuck Disney.
So you're still doing Macchies, but like on Patreon, right? Are you still doing that?
No, I was, but guess what? Nobody signed up. I'm gonna get 100 people signing up. I was like, this is gonna be great. If I get 1,000 people to sign up, it'll be worth it. Because of course it's gonna be 1,000 people. I used to be running the paper. 500,000 people used to see it every week, right?
Yeah.
I can get 1,000 to chip in $5. That'll be great. And then, but nobody signed up. 100 people.
Oh, really?
So it's like, and I'm selling merchandise. I guess I don't know who's buying the merchandise. The strip, I just gave up on the strip.
Okay.
My daughter told me a long time ago. I said, I think it was 2010 or 15. And I was like, all I had left was the Austin newspaper. I think it was called the Austin Chronicle for $10 a week. And I'm drawing it. I'm like, what the fuck am I drawing this for? Nobody's going to see this. I mean, I love the people of Austin, sure, right? And they were really supportive of it. And I said to my daughter, you think I should keep doing this? I'm only getting $10 a week for it. But, it's going to be in a book eventually. But it's fucking all night long I'm working on it. She goes, Dad, give it up. So I did. Mackey's is dead. I got a lot of mileage out of that, though. All the newspapers picked it up, all the comics newspapers.
Oh, wow.
But then when I tried to revive it, they were like, we don't want to do your super fucking article, but you're reviving it. It's dead.
You killed it.
The death of a strip is news. The revival of it is not.
Yeah. But I want to know, like, the collections, though. Like, did you collect the last years of the strip?
Collections do great. It's just that, and I thought maybe it's because like the humor doesn't work anymore. But the collections are still selling. I mean, I think they're all sold out now, but there's plenty of people that want to read that shit. It's just that, I just never figured out how to master online.
And there's a best of Mackey's book, isn't there, from Fantagraphics?
There should be.
Okay.
There should be, Eric.
There should be a best of, and there should be a complete. There should be a complete Mackey's as well. Like, Kaz has the complete Underworld book.
He does?
Yeah. You could do that.
There's a problem with Fantagraphics in me. It's that I did Billy Hazelnuts 1, did really well. Billy Hazelnuts 2, did great. Billy Hazelnuts 3, I ran into back problems. I got a really fucking hurt back. I had to have a spinal fusion. And then I was like taking pills for it, and I just couldn't. And I had to like struggle to make enough money to like feed my family, right? Drawing as much illustration, but I could only sit in the chair for like an hour or 2 hours a day. And I was like leaning back and drawing shit. And then I got so slow with the third book, which was going to be the wrap up of the story, a three-part book, that it's now like 12 years late.
Oh, wow.
And paid me a nice advance. So they're like, oh yeah? I'm like, maybe we should do like, oh yeah, sure. Where's the book? Gary was like, yeah, that's great. That's great. That's a great new idea you have. But why don't you finish the fucking Billy Hazelnuts first, asshole? He goes, we already wrote off the advance we gave you, so whatever. He didn't. Not in his head, he didn't. But now, my back's better.
Yeah.
Well, I'm still struggling to get any fucking cash. So,
Well, what were you showing me on Facebook on those pages that you were showing me? Was that from Billy?
that's a new book. That's a book that some freaks just came to me and said, "Do you want to do a 50-page book?" I said, "Sure." It's like I knew I could just. We Fantagraphics would have loved it too, but what am I going to do? I actually I have a book agent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who I said, "Don't go to Fantagraphics. There's a problem with Billy Hazelnuts." He went there anyway. Gary Ross sends a message through him back to me. Says, "Okay, sure, we'll give you an advance." No, wait a minute, we'll deduct the advance from Billy Hazelnuts. So finish Billy Hazelnuts, and then we'll do your book. I was like, "Shit, I told you not to fucking talk to him." So this book agent's a fucking jerk. So he never got me a good deal. Agents, what? I know I have no use for book agents.
Well, why don't you finish Billy Hazelnuts? I don't understand.
Good question. Why don't you?
How many pages are left of it?
60.
60? Oh, well, that's a lot. I can understand
It
it.
means I gotta draw 60 pages and not get paid till they're done.
Yeah. I understand that. Yeah, that's rough.
Now every 5 pages they pay me.
Yeah, but everybody's doing the complete books right now. Like Love and Rockets did the complete Love and Rockets. The complete 8-Ball, the complete Underworld, all that stuff. You have all the Maki stuff, I assume, right? I mean, that you have the files for that.
Yes, they put out all the strips in books already.
So there you
But
go.
they're all each one's like 2 years. One of them is 3 years. But if they put it all together, they have a big fucking giant book.
That's right. 3 strips on top of each other for each page.
It'll come out just in time. Oh fuck, that's bad. It'll come out just in time for the Sock Monkey movie. What?
Yeah, that's great. Is that coming out? Is that actually coming out?
It's in production now. We got some Italian backers that put in a bunch of millions of dollars because Nick Fackler was sick of dealing with Hollywood. Nick Fackler was a director. Lars Knudsen's producer. He's like with Square Peg, and they got a bunch of millionaire Italians who really want to do it because they love the look of it, the old-fashioned look of it. And the script is beautiful. Finally, I got a good script. And because he based it on one of the Sock Monkey books, but then he added every other Sock Monkey story into it, so it comes to this beautiful long story. It makes you cry at the end. At least they're all telling me. Everybody that reads this sheds a tear towards the end.
What about? I heard you were painting now. Are you actually doing that?
Yeah, I'm in the garage. I do it because I can't really draw it in the day. I have to go at night. So in the afternoons, I run in the garage to do my paintings. They're fucking gorgeous.
Oh, really?
I've started to do these things again called look boxes, which are because the thing is, if I get a nice big body of work of paintings, when the movie comes out, then I can get a name, and that'll help sell paintings. If I just throw a couple of Sock Monkeys in there, some Drinky Crows in the paintings, and I did when I was in Berlin. I lived there in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I did something called these things called look boxes. I started in Boston actually, where it's a box, right? A big wooden box, and you put your head in it, and it's long. It's maybe 4 feet long, or maybe 3. Sometimes some are only 2. You put your head into the box, so you're there's black velvet on your eyes, and you can see inside. There's speakers behind the black velvet here, so you're totally immersed. And then inside, there's a little scene that happens. I had there's the most beautiful one I did was look kind of like rib cages.
Wow.
And there was a little stage at the bottom, but behind it all, I had little spotlights, little tiny spotlights. I had little plastic animals, that stuff that I glued all in. I painted everything black, and then I repainted it with oil paints, so it's very gorgeous. Down at the bottom is a little stage with a little tiny nondescript monster. Just a little head, it looks like an engorged tick sitting there, just kind of wiggling around with little motors that are inside it, right? I'm doing much simpler versions of those because those things fall apart.
Yeah.
As you might imagine, all the little motors that I had in them. But in Berlin, I was getting paid for it because the government pays you to make art if you get a good contract, which I did. So we made these beautiful boxes there. And now I have the room to do them again. I won't put motors in them, or I might put sound. but you know, they're 3D.
Yeah.
And then change it. Because I'm an excellent oil painter. I don't know if you ever noticed.
I've never seen your oil paintings.
You've never seen an oil painting. Also, the other problem is nobody's seen an oil painting of mine because I haven't done one for about 30 years.
Okay. So you're getting back into it. It was it is
It's
it
fine. It's like riding a bike. You just
Oh,
hop
really?
right back to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're like a real I mean you're from a family of artists. So like that stuff is
Yes, I only started doing comics when I was 40. I was 35. I was 30. I was fucking 40. Yeah.
wow, I didn't know that. How,
I
why
was I was an illustrator and painter before that.
what stuff were you what comics were you seeing that inspired you to get into drawing comics?
Oh, what I was, you're right. But you said about my family. Yeah, my grandmother and grandfather were painters. My grandmother before that was a painter. They all went to like the Philadelphia Academy of Art. That's where my grandfather and grandmother met at the Philadelphia Academy of Art. My mother and father met at Mass Art. You
Mhm.
know, it's all in my family. My brother's an artist. He does woodwork, you know, furniture design and stuff. The comics was like for me. I loved newspaper comics. My grandfather always wanted to be a cartoonist. He was friends with Roy Crane, who did
Wow.
and Les Turner, who
Yeah.
did Captain
Buzz
Easy
Sawyer.
and
Yeah.
Wash Tubbs and all that stuff back in the 50s, 40s.
Mhm.
And he was friends with them. He went to school with them, and they were they he had all these comics around the house. He had books signed by Roy Crane to me that he gave me when I was like 10. Signed books by him, and he had these. Every time I go to his house on a Sunday, it's beautiful, like you know, Turkish carpets on the floor and shit, and we'd open up the pages, just newspaper comics, like a full page of one comic, you know, just like you'd fall into it, blacks and oranges, and
Mm.
weird greens, everything's off register a little bit. I'm not talking about the cutest shit. I'm talking about he had like collections from like the 20s.
Wow.
You'd open up the pages are yellowed, and you'd have to be really careful not to rip them. And you just fall deep into them. I just love those fucking things. It was like looking at a dream.
Scrapbooks of old comics or like actually
What?
wow.
Yeah.
Like yeah, like I mean how
Talking
does
about comics like and that goes to people never heard of nowadays. Andy Gump
Mhm.
and Kaz talks a lot about the old comics, Stokey Stover and all those guys.
Yeah.
Smoke Stover, what's his name? I can't remember the names of these
Bill
motherfuckers,
Holman.
but you know, shit like Winsor McKay and
Mhm.
George Harriman, Crazy Cat, that
Yeah.
kind of shit. But all the like the lesser ones, the drawings are, you know, they didn't get as famous because the stories were fucking stupid, but the drawings were gorgeous. You know, tigers and caves and all kinds of stuff. But the thing is, I loved comics so much that whenever I go over to like my parents were swapping with one couple exclusively for a while. So we went over to their house, and I'd be down in the basement going through their recycled newspaper stacks of recyclable newspapers. I'd
Uh-huh.
cut them open and read all the comics from their town because they
Yeah.
were different from my comic book. I just read every one of them. I just spent hours. I just love newspaper comics. I don't know what. I love seeing the little drawings come alive.
Mm.
Started with Peanuts, and everything under that was good. I love Blondie because of the drawings. I
Mhm.
love Peanuts because of the writing. I love Fred Bassett. It's like an old shoe, you know. You just like a comfortable old slipper you put on. I love like fucking High and Lois because of the roundness. I love like you know all that weird shit like Snuffy Smith, the Hillbillies.
Yeah.
This and the jokes were fucking dumb, but I didn't care about the jokes if they were dumb. I saw pictures talking.
What
That's why
about
I love
Andy
it.
Cap? Do you like Andy Cap?
Loved Handicap. Oh my god, jokes about a drunk.
I read Gasoline Alley every morning and it's
Love that. Love that strip.
yeah, but it's sad now because it's you know it's so far removed from the original thing like
It's
from
still
Frank.
alive. It's still happening.
Yeah, it's still being drawn, but it's being drawn by a guy who lives in North Carolina, so it's a southern strip now. Gasoline Alley was like Chicago, you know, but
Was
now
it?
it's
Yeah, like Illinois, right? It was
yeah,
like
yeah,
small, but it was like yeah,
and now it's
Midwestern.
yeah, now it's like got like hillbillies in it and stuff because the guy who draws it is a
That big, right?
yeah, it's like a 3 panel strip, and it's mostly like heads, talking heads now and stuff. It's just kind of a
Yeah,
bummer, but
yeah.
I
Well, you
love
know
them.
that's the problem with all newspaper comics nowadays. I mean, even if you can find a newspaper or you can go online, they're just a shadow of what they used to be. I mean, I hate talking like old grandpa boy back in the old good old days because
That's
the
true.
writing was fucking horrible back then. Those the old collections, Fantagraphics puts a lot of them out.
Hmm.
Gasoline Alley. I mean, it was not much to it, but it was just a beautiful feeling. Like
Oh, I
everything's
love
fine.
it.
Yeah, pictures of autumn leaves falling down while the car going over a hill. Just really nice. I love
Yeah.
the color of it. The old ones, big ones.
Well, here's what's gorgeous about Gasoline Alley is not a joke comic. It's a story comic, right? So you're getting to
Right,
know the characters as it's going every day. So you can pick
right,
up one of those volumes and read it like a novel.
right.
You're like a Victorian novel where it's just character based and
Yeah.
it's going kind of slow. But what's happening there is that Frank King in real life had a son who his wife, they had it together. His wife was not really interested in being a mother. She sent their son away to like a private school. So he was missing out on being a father. So he was living out being a father in the strip. So
Oh, really?
yeah, so he gives, so the boy arrives on the baby arrives on the doorstep and then he's raising it every day. It's getting older in real time. And in this way, Frank King's able to like raise his son through his comics. And so
Oh,
it's kind of
wow.
this tragic piece of art, as you read the volumes. It's like,
No, I had no idea about that. I'd never read that story, but that
yeah,
makes total sense when you can feel the tragedy in it.
hmm,
There's something sad about it. There's
yeah,
sad and beautiful, like he's reassuring himself. You can feel like
yeah,
this, like everything's gonna be okay, everything's all right, even though he's probably fucking going nuts. I mean, there's always been sadness in the comics. That was fine, and
hmm,
it makes you, the sadness and the joy, as Uncle Gabby used to say, life is a bucket of joy.
hmm.
There's always like, and there's my friend Ed Gray wrote the tagline for Mackey's when we were standing in the street. He had taken his boat. He was captain of a ship. It was a single mast sailing ship. Well, it's just a sailboat, but
Hmm.
he sailed it down from Maine down to North Carolina, where he hit a squall. It
Oh,
smashed his boat onto the beach and completely sunk it into the sand, so he could not get it out again, and was
oh
just
my
like
God.
taking his shit. He hitchhiked back to New York, and he was like staying at my house for a little while in the winter. He had no place to look. And he was standing out the street and he's looking up the hill in Brooklyn, up the hill at all the houses and the beautiful trees. And he just started laughing with this laugh like this. And what are you laughing about? Oh, just the horror of being alive. So that became the tagline for Mackey's, just the horror of being alive. But he's laughing about it.
Yeah, that's good. I understand that too.
That doesn't affect my comics at all. I mean, it's all the same shit.
Yeah. But Drinky Crow was you, all right? And weren't you
Yeah.
and Uncle Gabby was you?
There are everything. I think that every piece of art, if any artist has any integrity at all, every piece of art they do is a self-portrait, right?
Mm,
I mean, it has to. It comes from your heart. And if you're not really pulling everything out of you to put it into it, you're not really doing your work. Unless, some people have a different style. Some people have a different technique, or they just take something from over there and whatever, right? What am I talking about? But that's always been my case, the case with my art. It's like, it's all self-portraits.
yeah.
But for me, it's always been, and this is why the comic hasn't changed. It's about a monkey and a bird trying to do something like, hey, this is going to work. And of course, it's never going to work,
Mm,
right? I got a great idea. Let's do this. And it's something completely stupid.
yeah.
And the end of the last edge of one of the panels, they're in a sailboat and they're like he's talking about this great idea. He's going to blame his sober self is not to blame. His drunken self is not to blame for crashing the ship, because his drunken self is drunk, but the sober one made the decision to drink the booze and crash so the drunk one crashed the ship. So it's the sober one who's at fault. So he has to force the sober one out of his life by being constantly drunk. And they're like, now I'll never crash the ship again. And the drinking goes like, that's great. The plan cannot fail. Then you see the ship's like going right over a waterfall. So this is the thing, trying to figure out how to do your fucking life, how to deal with it, and realizing you can't fucking do anything.
Hmm.
All you can do is just muddle through it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just do a good muddle. I'm doing a strip cut called Buddhist Grandma, where everything can be broken down into a real simple little idiom, like, you know, station time saves nine. There's this Buddhist that comes down. He's talking about this whole, theory about letting go and attachment and all this shit. And then some alcoholic comes on and starts saying, one day at a time and all this shit. They all coming up with these long philosophies. And then the grandma was sitting on the rocking chair. She's like, one day at a time. So for the writer, she'd say, write about what you know. That's what that whole concept is about. Write what you know.
Yeah.
So, you have to write it from shit that's in your head.
Yeah.
You try to write a character that you don't know anything about, it's not going to ring true. I mean, if I had to write a story, the story of Scott Richardson, everybody would be bored out of their minds.
Oh, I don't think that's true. There's
Scott Richardson. Oh yeah, you're right. Actually, it'd be a pretty good story.
yeah.
I try to get a shit. That's what it would be good. I try to do a book. I sell a book called Tony's True Tales.
Uh-huh.
Autobio, just all my fucking wacky fucking adventures. And I had a lot of them because I remember when I was younger, in my 20s, I was like, if I don't do this now, I'll never be able to do it. And if I don't do this now, I won't have any stories to tell when I'm 50. So I better fucking do it. So when, I did all kinds of crazy shit. I went all over the world just like with no money. I figured, well, all right, we'll see how I muddle my way out of this. And
Yeah.
I did. Lived in Berlin for 5 years, lived in Rome for a long time with no cash. And you just figure out what to do. And no, you have to be a prostitute.
Well, I heard about like because I just turned 40 like a few weeks ago, and I
Oh
read
no, poor guy.
yeah, I know. But when you turned 40, I read the story about you like falling off the roof of a taxi cab or something. I'm like, God damn, this guy has had a wild fucking life, man. He was my age.
That was like, but that was my
out in the
Uncle
car.
Gabby. That was the Uncle Gabby in me. Like, I got an idea. I have to quit drinking because I'm getting in trouble because I was drinking a lot of vodka. I was like getting, in fucking trouble all the time. I
Yeah.
said, I was really annoying. I was the loudest, drunkest, tallest fuck in every party, right? So I said, I'll just drink beer and wine. My 40th birthday, I wearing like a suit. I had a party at my house, took a bottle of Merlot, like tong, 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 tong. I took another I guess like this. I can only drink beer and wine. I better drink it fast. It's not going to work.
Oh man.
I go shit faced. Like, let's go to the city, everybody. So we're like, all right, pile into a cab. 3 in the back and 1 in the front. And I'm like, I'm gonna get in. And the cab says, I can only take 4 people. And I said, fuck you. And I jumped on top of the cab and everybody piled out, like, what the fuck is he doing? And the taxi driver's scared shitless. So he takes off. So I'm just hanging on to the light on top, like, oh shit, banging on the window, let me in. He didn't let me in. So I'm riding along and I'm thinking he's gonna just slow down and let me off. But maybe he won't. Maybe he'll go faster. So I better jump now. So I jumped. But being an alcoholic, a really good alcoholic who knows how to get really drunk, some alcoholics, they just sip and they just alcohol. That's sad. To be a fucking real alcoholic like me, you have to, I got 9.
Yeah.
So I know how to fall. So when I fell, I just immediately quickly turned my shoulder in, put my arm down, turned my shoulder in, took down my head, rolled. But I didn't roll into a fucking telephone pole or a parking meter or, you know what I mean? That would have killed me, broken my neck or back. I rolled and I got like a scrape down my leg and I tore my pant leg. But after that, then I decided, okay, I'm going to quit drinking completely.
But you just drank beer after that, right?
Completely quit drinking.
Wow.
On my 40th birthday, completely stopped.
Huh.
Go ahead.
How long did you quit?
1 month.
Okay.
Then I said, oh, fuck this. So I drank a bottle of vodka. I said, I can't go out of the house. So I drank a bottle of vodka. And then I said, all right, from now on, I'm only drinking beer. Beer, you can't get that drunk on beer. I mean, unless you stay up for 3 nights.
Yeah. I can get pretty drunk on beer. I don't know. But I don't have the tolerance that you have. I don't drink that much.
I don't have tolerance. Yeah. But, after a while, you get bloated and you have to piss. I mean, you can, but, if you want to hold back, it's pretty easy because you just,
Yeah. But you were drinking like
when I quit, I was drinking 12 or 15 beers every single night when I quit.
Mm-hmm. That's
and you know what? Every fucking comic strip, every illustration, every record cover or magazine cover, everything was drawn on at least 4 beers.
Wow.
So the whole idea of like, oh, it's going to really improve your work. No, it's much harder for me to draw now. I sit there. Okay, I got to get started. I'm chewing gum. I started smoking, hoping that would help. I started smoking at 65. Yeah. So, you're drawing, then you stop and take a break, have a cigarette. That didn't really help. But I'm interested in comics is I want to see a story. Even an illustration. Like
Mhm.
I love N.C. Wyeth, I love Howard Pyle, but they're all telling a story. I mean, and you know, I love Edward Hopper. There's a fucking story in Edward Hopper. I don't like those fucking sad shadow building paintings he did, but the houses he painted in Gloucester. I'm
Mhm.
looking right now at a painting of like some island on Mohegan Island in Maine, just mountains, beautiful paintings. That's different. But to see a cartoonist just do sketches, I've never been interested in sketchbooks.
Oh,
I
okay.
mean, okay, look, you can draw a long nose, whatever. It doesn't interest me. Not that that it. I mean, who am I to invalidate anything? But I just, for me, I'm just not interested in.
It depends on the artist for me. Like you know, from Crumb's work, there is like a magic to his drawing style
Yeah.
that, you know, it's
Believe me, the magic. I saw the magic to his drawing style when he drew the fucking story about. Okay, this is what Gary Groth was doing in an interview of him, and Gary Groth asked me, "What do you want? You want me to ask him a question? A question?" I said, "Yes." Tell him I love that strip about, and how did that come about? Where there's flaky food, and he's raking up some hay on the ground. He's like, "This is fucking hard work, man." And Mr. Nasher comes along and stares at him. He goes, bang, and he knocks the rake out of his hand and he hands him a pitchfork. And he's like, "Oh, this is so much easier." He goes, in the end, is Mr. Natural saying, "Use the right tool for the job." I love that strip.
yeah,
Or
it's
when
great.
Mr. Natural washes the dishes,
Uh-huh, great one.
story, and it's told in simple drawings. And I said to him, he goes, "Oh yeah, yeah." So he asked him that in the Comics Journal interview. And he said, "Yeah, I was working on a farm and I was trying to rake up grass with a fucking rake, and it was tedious. Somebody gave me a pitchfork, so I made a comic about it." See, that's what that shit. But the drawings, the detail of the pitchfork, the drawings. I mean, I said pitchfork before, but it was early stuff. The drawings are really, they really hit me. I mean, I'll sit and stare at them forever.
Mhm.
They're part of a story.
Yeah.
The same with like Winnie the Pooh. Those fucking drawings, those illustrations are gorgeous. And if they weren't part of the story that were in the book, maybe they wouldn't be as powerful.
Yeah,
Even standing by a little creek, just like looking around, you know, if it was tail or whatever the fuck it was, and then the creek goes up and the giant fucking tree and the little things, but it's
Mhm.
part of the story that you're reading, so it's more important. That's just me.
Well, I love that too. Like those strips, like the one of Mr. Natural just doing the dishes, it kind of gives you,
Yeah,
as a cartoonist, it gives you the permission to do something like that. Like there's another one he did called Bobo Belinsky, and it's just him sitting in a chair from different angles.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
each
yeah,
panel is him in that same chair and from a different angle. And you did like a Maki's where it's just like your hand holding the, you know, the crow, or like a glass or something, a close up of your eye.
yeah,
And it's sort of the similar thing where it's just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
let
It's
me
a
just.
study of like a study of drawings, yeah, but even that's a story. Just kind of, you know what I mean. When I say story, I don't mean like, you know, from start to end a story. And you know, when I went to Mass Art, what they all said, and they criticized me, and they criticized Kathy too. But I call her my wife. But anyway, my wife Kathy,
Hmm.
she does beautiful like art. She does these ceramics. She uses ceramic, but she uses like she does circles, like that shit.
Oh
They're
yeah,
stories,
yeah, yeah.
right? And they're beautiful. Each one is its own little story, but it's narrative. And at Mass Art, you got a lot of shit. So did I.
Mhm.
Don't tell stories with the art.
Mhm.
It's about the art. You know what I mean? It's about the materials, all that shit. We constantly get that. I'm like, whatever. And I would do paintings that were sort of about a subject. You know,
Mhm.
I wanted which is illustration, really. But there was a battle between the fine arts department and the illustration department. The illustration department, they're trying to tell us something, say something with the drawing. The fine arts department, you're just talking about paint and
Right.
and whatever the fuck the media, the piece itself, what
Mhm.
the paint is doing when it's this color is next to that color, that kind of shit. And when you combine them, you end up with N.C. Wyeth or Howard Pyle.
I got that same thing. They don't want words in the painting, and they don't want
Oh
like
my
a
God, yeah.
narrative at all
A friend of mine, I remember at my painting class, 1975, and this painter, he was the best painter in the class, big, huge paintings, just really, really fast. And he got his like his sub paint, is the bottom painting, that what do you call it? The first painting done.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking great. Why don't you just leave it like that? He goes, "I'm not done. That's just the beginning." And then he would paint, and it was fucking beautiful, pile to paint on. And then he started stenciling words across, and the teacher's like, "Don't do that." He said, and they had a credit. He goes, "Yeah, it's fine, except you put words in your painting." He goes, "Is that against Mass Art rules now?" Then he started pulling up all these examples of artists that had done that. I'm like, well, yeah, I guess there's no rules.
Yeah, they hate it.
They told you not to put words in your painting at art at school.
Yeah. The teacher said if you put words in your painting, it's not a painting, it's a sign.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So
right.
I'm a sign painter or something. I'm
Yeah.
creating art.
And then as you get older, you realize every fucking art teacher was once just a fucking artist. We didn't know what he was doing. I had a painter who used to. He walked one time. It was like he's like walking around, and everybody's like looking at him like, oh, he's gonna say something. Watch out, watch out. He walked over to the window and he goes, "How can I paint when the world is gray?" Everybody's just like, fucking asshole.
Real quick, let me direct you to my new self-publishing imprint, Envious Editions. There's a link in the description here for my big cartel. I self-publish my own stories for art's sake. Boring, Lizard Laughed, Blammo, my Eisner-nominated Ignatz-winning comic book series, started in 2007, very legendary. You can get your own copies of any of these comics directly from me. Hit that link, and I will send them to you. You won't find these in stores. I don't distribute these in stores. Just through my big cartel. Hit the link. Thank you very much.